Hey there. Welcome, welcome. Welcome back to the Awesome Life podcast. I am here with the amazing dear friend. We have known each other for many years. We'll get into that a little bit later. Regina Huber. She has an amazing story. And let me read you a little bit of information about her, because the Awesome Life podcast is about empowering, and it's offering tips and tricks and hacks to create that awesome life for all of you who are in that world that wants to have a better life. And Regina is a role model like you would not believe. But before we go into all of her details here, I'm going to read you a little bit about her. She is the CEO of her coaching and training and speaking business. It's called Transform Your Performance. And I have been watching her videos and liking them on YouTube, and I encourage you to do the same, because she is always offering wonderful tips and ways of really transforming your performance, no matter what that performance might be. She drives the transformational leadership, and she helps her clients increase their income, their influence, and their impact. She has eclectic, adventurous personality, and I never know where she's going to be when I talk to her. She's all over the place. I love it. I love it. And today's our title for today is a sparkle your brilliance out to the world now. Welcome, Regina. You are so cool, and I'm thrilled to pieces that you're joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. I'm delighted to be here. And I was so thrilled when I saw that you are doing a podcast, because I'd seen all your wonderful posts on LinkedIn, super professional, super insightful. And I was really looking forward to this. And thank you for the warm welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So tell us, how did you get into this transformational world? Where did your journey begin?
Yeah. So as you know, Karen, the entire life is one transformation, right? So I think my path and my spark have always been driven by my insatiable curiosity. And curiosity also happens to be one of my top leadership traits, according to some of those tests, that we do sometimes online. So it's this insatiable curiosity that pushed me out into the world, and that actually allowed me to travel and move so many times despite my extreme shyness. Because, as a little girl, I was the shyest kid on the block, or I should say rather in the village, because I grew up in a village of about 10 houses, right, on a farm.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
with that in, you have a slight accent. What country?
Yeah. So I grew up in Bavaria, Germany. So it's almost Austria, almost, very close to the border near the Alps. So, and it was this curiosity, and this adventurous spirit that pushed me out to the world. And I think it was my dad who passed that on to me. He really loved adventures. He couldn't always travel as much as he wanted, because he was a farmer, and he also had a job on the side, right? Or I could say, or the farm on the side. I don't know. Both were quite intense, I have to say. So, and he loved adventures, and he loved going on tours in the mountains, long bike rides all the way to Hungary, Budapest, and Italy when he could, right? And there was also this mysterious guy in our family who I didn't really get to meet, but who traveled up the entire Nile all by himself in a small boat in the 80s. I think it was in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
And I just found out about him actually a few years ago when they did a documentary on this trip. And he was one of the people who actually also climbed some of the highest mountains in exotic places, and nobody ever knew about it, because he was not the guy who would go up with a big expedition. No, he did all of that by himself. And so I guess that's also partly where it's coming from. So, and that's probably why my life has been so adventurous and eclectic. And I moved to Munich at the age of 19. And from there, to Spain when I was 26, and later to other continents like Latin America, Brazil, and Argentina in Latin America, right? I lived in both countries twice, actually. And the US, I've also lived in San Francisco, apart from New York, where I'm currently based, and I'm spending some time also in Florida right now. So what's also really been very enriching in the last few years specifically was that I spent about 6 months in 5 African countries. And it would have been more if it hadn't been for the lockdown last year, because there was a lot planned for that spring and summer. But, so this is part of those stories. So, and when I tell my stories, people always say, well, you should write a book about them, and maybe someday I will. For now, I just wrote a little book, which is more like a how-to book. And I think we're going to go into that a little later. But, all of these, all of this curiosity, I should say, also really drove me to study lots of different things. For example, different holistic healing modalities. And it also flows into my work, sometimes more indirectly. And I thought it's so interesting how it all works, our body, our energy, and what their role is in business. Yes. Yeah. And our subconscious. So I also love reading about neuroscience and stuff, but that's sort of like just the gist of it for now. Apart from dance.
Yeah. And you do love to dance, and that's really what I think. That's what drew me to you, was your energy and always wanting to dance. And the pictures I saw of you, and we actually met with business building using a lot of our alternative healing energy work in EFT. So I'm sure that is a somewhat of what you do, but like you, I've expanded that and we utilize it in our business. So that is terrific. You are truly eclectic. There's no question about it. And I love the life that you've lived. And thank you for sharing. Well, are there some highlights that you feel are really beneficial to help our listeners today?
Yeah, I think, sometimes we just have to listen to our heart and just do things. I lived a lot from that premise in the past, even more than now, I would even say, because but I just always did things. I wasn't always necessarily consciously doing them in the past, because I didn't have as much knowledge as I have now. We all gain wisdom and knowledge over a lifetime. But I went into a lot of stories, adventure stories, without, even expecting the adventure in them, let's say, right? So I think it's also really related to my availability to take risks. For example, when I moved to Spain, I'd never really lived in Spain. I just learned Spanish. And then I just said, okay, there's this opportunity. Let me take it. So, and I learned the language really quickly, and I moved there, and it was a completely new culture, although it's also Europe, but it's a completely new culture anyway. Yeah. So, yeah. And then also, of course, when I started my first business in Argentina, and I left a well-paying job in San Francisco behind for it. And I decided, okay, now I just want to take all my money that I've made so far and take it into investor's visa and with me to Argentina and put it into a bed and breakfast. So, it was the craziest story at the time, because I've moved to different countries and continents, not always with a job. I should mention that first, right? Sometimes I had a job, sometimes I didn't. Yeah. And, I moved with the Boston Consulting Group a few times, but I didn't always move with a job. Sometimes I moved to another continent with just a dream in my pocket, right? And that was the case also in 2005, when I left California and my well-paying job at BCG to open a bed and breakfast in Buenos Aires. So I immigrated with an investor's visa. And for this bed and breakfast, of course, I had to find a house. And that was actually quite quick. So I found a house that I wanted to buy. But buying it was a little bit more adventurous than I first thought. Because, in Argentina, at least at the time, it might have changed now, I'm not sure, but you had to pay in dollars and in cash. So
Oh my
I
God.
found myself, yes, right. So I found myself carrying several hundred thousands of dollars across the city of Buenos Aires in my socks because I had to somehow transport those dollars physically from one bank to the other. And it wasn't recommended to take a taxi because it's too obvious. And, just like in some places, they're organized groups who inform each other. So I was just not comfortable doing that because of the warnings I had received, and so I found myself carrying several hundred thousands of dollars in my socks.
So you
And
found a solution.
I found a solution.
You're a solution finder.
Yeah, but look, one wrong move and all my savings could have been gone, because if somebody had really known what I was doing or seen me in the bank, whatever, then that would have been quite risky, right?
Not only that, but I expect the walking, having them in your socks, you might get walking oddly with all that money.
Yeah, especially it was a hot summer day. And I would not have voluntarily worn socks, and jeans on that day. So anyway, and the whole thing, it wasn't easy to make it all work within the 1 year. I had a year to really make it work with under the investor's visa terms, and I had to employ somebody within a year. So I had to have the house built out within a year, which was a bit challenging because everything is done more manually, at least at the time, so it takes a while. And then, there was another whole story behind that we can maybe talk about another day, but it wasn't easy, let's say, in a nutshell. It was quite challenging, but it worked out somehow, right? And then after that, a few years later, I actually moved to Brazil again with an investor's visa. And, I started another brick and mortar business from scratch. In Brazil, I actually had a fraudulent business partner, so it didn't go that well. In Argentina, my business was very successful. It was number one on TripAdvisor during the time it was open practically. Oh, wow. So it was really nice. But I just got a little tired of, being so tied to the house somehow. Because of the type of business it was. So, and then I wanted to dance more samba de gafieira and some other things in Brazil. And so I moved to Brazil and did the same over, basically, just a slightly different business. And it turned out to be one of my business partner, who wasn't the partner for the entire business, but for part of it, he turned out to be fraudulent. So that was not such a nice experience. And that eventually also pushed me to move to New York City. It's a much longer story than this, but I've shared it so often. So I just think I'm just going to leave it there. But, and then it's just also, it was a huge learning experience. In hindsight, everything is a lesson, and it catapulted me into my next chapter, which is what I'm doing now. So, there's always a blessing in any experience we have.
Yeah, it's becoming aware of that blessing when you're in the middle of it. Because I think when we met, every time I talk to you, well, I'm on my way back to Brazil. I'm still trying to get my money. I'm back in New York now. No, I'm in Florida.
Right. So I was going back and forth quite a bit in the beginning because, it was a brick and mortar business. Also, I had to deal with a lot of corruption, and all the paperwork is very corrupt and intransparent. So it was a lot of work to really clean up the mess, going back and forth. A lot of my energy went into it. So my energy was very much split during the first few years, and that is very challenging. But I was also finding my way back into my confidence and into my self-esteem, which had been crashed at the time. It has been totally below zero. So I was rebuilding this, which then taught me a lot about how to do this, of course. And now I'm teaching my clients to elevate. They don't have to be at that low level, but we can always, grow and elevate whatever we are working on. And apart from that, of course, I always love to travel. So I backpacked through several Central American countries with my sister in 2001. I'm very much an independent traveler, so I like my freedom and explore places in my own way. like going on night bike tours through inner city Johannesburg, or taking collective taxis in Yaoundé, Cameroon, or motorbike taxis in Kigali, Rwanda, go dancing with really living the local life. That's the way I like to travel.
Oh,
So
well, that's how you learn, isn't it? It's how
yeah.
you learn about the locals. Now, I understand you have 4 pillars for your signature framework of powerful leadership transformation. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this framework came about as a result of all my, experience, of course, unique experience. We all have unique experience, and my life path, and also all the different studies that I had gone through. And so the 4 pillars are, so the first one is self-empowering mindset and heart set. I always like to say, no one can empower you but yourself. And for that, of course, an empowering mindset is imperative. And with my coaching clients, we do very profound mindset work. So really going into the subconscious. Well, always depending on specific needs, of course. But also, on the other hand, if we don't include heart set as well, we will miss out on at least 50% of our intelligence. And more importantly, we miss out on our unique wisdom, because our heart holds a very specific, a very special intelligence and wisdom that is unique to us alone and to our life path. So that was pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is distinctive uniqueness. So that's all about your unique brilliance and genius. And I can send you a little bit of an overview of this with the 4 pillars afterward. I mean, that's, yeah, that's, yeah, thank you. So there, unique brilliance and genius, this is about what I call distinctive uniqueness. So there are currently close to 7.9 billion people on this planet, and no one has your DNA. It's really important to remember that, no one has your fingerprint, and no one like you has ever walked on this earth, and no one like you will ever walk on this earth, unless you're cloned, of course, and I know we know that's possible, but let's just assume it's not happening, hopefully.
Even the clones are not exactly alike.
Right, exactly. You're right. And, and uniqueness is, of course, no coincidence. Yeah. You were made unique because you're a puzzle piece in the greater puzzle of diverse humanity and human beings. And we're all different for a reason. We all have a different path, a unique spark. And that's why we're talking about spark today, right? And that's what I call your distinctive uniqueness in my work, the unique package of your skills, talents, your background, your experiences, stories, etc. And what's really important to remember is you do not need a role model. I say this slowly because I can't stress this enough, right? It's nice to have a role model, but you don't need one. Yeah. So you are meant to walk on your very, very own path, because, no one has walked on that path before. So rather than searching for someone who has done the same as you want to do, just allow yourself to be inspired by others who might have done things you appreciated, but they don't have to be exactly a role model. Yeah. So if you don't find one, that's no big deal. You don't need one. Find your own distinctive uniqueness.
Well,
Yes?
I'm wondering too, a lot of coaches and consultants will say, find somebody that you admire and do the role model bit. And I totally agree with you. You cannot be that person. You will never be that person, but you can find the gifts in that person that you like. And then you also know that they are your gifts, or you would not see it in them.
Exactly. And, I can totally be inspired, for example, by my parents, but are they completely my role model? Maybe not, because I have a totally different life, and a totally different purpose and a totally different calling. So, I think that's the difference. And I can still be inspired by some people who are maybe very successful and who do certain things in a certain way, and I might learn from them. One thing doesn't exclude the other. Right. So then the third pillar is a body and energy conscious presence. So this is about a compelling, confident business and speaking presence, all of that, really in business and in life in general, right? Mm-hmm. So when we prepare physically and energetically for challenging situations in business, that makes us much more likely to succeed in those situations, to attain positive outcomes. For example, on sales calls, in negotiations, in speaking situations, presentations, meetings, whatever it is. Any situation, really. A lot of people don't think about preparing physically and energetically. That's also why I put a lot of those techniques into my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, because it really gives us freedom to do that. And I'm all about freedom. Everything I do is in the service of freedom, the freedom to speak up, stand out, and shine, and hence the title of my book, right? So, that. Yeah. And then pillar number 4 is inspired and effective action. Now, we can work 24 hours a day without resting and take one action after the other and still not get anywhere when our action is not inspired by a supporting mindset and heart set, by all these other 3 pillars, right? Mindset and heart set, when we are not supporting what we're meant to do, when we're not doing what when we're not doing what we're meant to do, that is aligned with our distinctive uniqueness. So the second pillar, right? And when we're not displaying a compelling presence. So if these first 3 pillars are not given, it's much harder to really make our action effective because it's not really properly inspired. So this pillar is really pretty much a result of the other 3, but we got to take action, of course, too, to make it happen. And inspired and effective action is also more focused action. So I said before, while I was going back and forth between Brazil and New York, it was always like, I was half in Rio de Janeiro, half in New York City, because I was doing too many things at the same time. But once I could get rid of the one really big weight on one of my legs, right, I could really start running forward. And I think this is what this is also about, right? To find the right moment.
To find the right moment. And it's all about inspired action, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
One of my leadership teachers, and that's what you are, you're a leadership transformation mentor. And I find that one of my leadership teachers inspired me to really want to go forward in my business without motivation. A lot of people will say, well, I'm not motivated, or I am motivated. And he explained to me the difference, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And what that was motivation comes from a fear-based outside. You will do this or you'll lose your job. You have to do this to support your family, whatever. Inspired action comes from inside, that you want to do because it fills you with something.
That's very interesting, because I sometimes tend to say a little bit of the opposite, but I guess it depends on how you define motivation, because there's probably different types of definition. So for example, I don't call myself a motivational speaker. I call myself an inspirational speaker, because I believe that I cannot motivate anybody else. Just as I like to say, no one can empower you but yourself. I think motivation for me comes from within, from an inner motive for me. It's my understanding, but again, it's how you define it, right? Well, and I think, I can probably only find the right motivation. Maybe that's the piece of it, that explains it in that way, the right motivation from within, because I can inspire you to do something, but I cannot really motivate you. I think that's probably how I had seen it in the context of this term, motivational speaker and inspirational speaker, but he might just be just as right. I'm not saying.
It is. It's all definition. And honestly, when the same person, he said, "Oh, I love you." And I said to myself, "You don't even know me. How can you possibly love me? Don't give me all that brado." And he said, basically, it's namaste. When my heart touches your heart, we are one, and that is love.
Yeah.
And, well, I can get that. I understand. If that's what you're calling I love you with a total stranger, yeah, I love you too.
Yeah. And it's about maybe unconditional love, so there's so many definitions. Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
all about the definition that
And
you
about,
are holding.
and about the heart
About the
in this
heart.
case.
And I love that. Yeah. Telling more about your heart set. I love that. That is, to me, that's very important. But can you share any more about your heart set?
Yeah. So, as mentioned earlier, our hearts hold our very unique wisdom, that applies specifically to us. Right. And so I have found, for example, that the best decisions are made with my heart, especially the tough ones or the life-changing ones. That's because it's in our hearts where we most easily access our intuition. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. We also have, of course, the pineal gland. You know that, Karen, and its role, right? I think our audience understands that role as well. But it's also in the heart. And when we get to a crossroads, our intuition knows what the right path is for us. Our heart knows. That's why we always say, follow your heart, right? So the way I like to put it is, okay, due diligence and research are important for many decisions. But the magic happens when you combine the reasoning with the wisdom of your heart. And at times they might contradict each other. And when they do, I would say, have the courage to follow your heart. From my own experience, yes, because you cannot rationalize everything. And if we go to the deepest depth of it, there are no real objective facts anyway. There might be numbers, but even numbers, are they really facts, right? So,
I've proven it. I worked in finance. No, you can make those numbers do anything.
Right. And we're seeing that very clearly in our current reality, right? So plus, there's another piece of it. There's several other pieces, actually. So our heart is the source of courage. And in fact, in many languages, the words heart and courage have the same root. For example, in French, cœur, courage, in many Latin languages, right? And other languages too. Even in German, the old word for mutig, which means courageous, is beherzt. And the word for heart is Herz. So see, it's not just the Latin languages. So I like to say fear is in the mind, but courage is in the heart. And our heart is also a source of our creative power. It picks up inspiration from the field. It's like a magnet. Its electromagnetic field is stronger than our head brain's field. I'm sure you have heard that before, Karen. Yeah. So the heart's electrical field is about 100 times as strong as the brain's electrical field. And the magnetic field of the heart can even be up to 5,000 times stronger.
Wow.
It's really a magnet. That means several things actually for our purposes here. We connect with other people through our heart's electromagnetic field. Yes. So we can send out good intentions, for example, through our hearts for this connection. For example, as speakers, we could go ahead and before stepping in front of an audience, we could say, I set the intention from my heart to connect with the audience in a benevolent way and set the stage in that way and really make that prior connection before we even get to know each other, because we might not even know who's going to be there, but through our hearts we can still connect.
I love that.
Try it out, and then we can co-create through our hearts, manifest what we want by connecting with our heart's desires. And I've made actually some videos about this. Specifically, there's a whole series, a whole playlist on my YouTube channel, Regina Huber, that our viewers can find there.
Absolutely.
For totally free.
Absolutely, how they can find you there. Because indeed, it is about intention, isn't it? Intention can make or break a situation. And if you do not actually set that intention, sometimes you don't get the result that you might have been expecting.
Yeah.
And you wonder, what? This worked before. yeah, it's all about the intention. So I love, love,
Right.
love that you are talking about the energy of that, and the energy of intention, and how does that incorporate into business, the energy?
Yeah. So intention itself is energy, right? Yeah. And energy is all we are. And yet in business, hardly anybody talks about energy. I've often wondered why that is. I think some people just don't want us to know how powerful we really are.
Oh,
Yes.
I love that. I totally agree.
Yeah. So the truth is, paying attention to our energy makes all the difference. Using energy consciously with awareness. You talk a lot about awareness, Karen. So this is energy awareness, right? And
Yeah.
using yeah, I just saw that again on LinkedIn with your post today. Talk about awareness. I love it. I love it. So yeah, and using energy related tools changes how others perceive us, and it enhances our perceived presence, but it also impacts our confidence level.
Yeah.
So most of our viewers have probably heard over and over that you have 7 seconds to make a great first impression, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I have to disappoint them, because in reality, you only have 0.07 seconds.
Woo. Woo.
Why?
Woo.
Because it takes a mere 0.07 seconds for our brains to figure out whether we can trust someone. And that's less than a blink of an eye, and it happens automatically. This is part of our survival mechanism, and that's why it has to be this fast and automatic. So this is about your energy. Yes.
Yeah.
And your energy is always at work. We continuously communicate on an energetic level, whether we are aware of it or not. Again, the awareness, right? Whether you're aware of it or not. So why not use our energy more consciously, with more awareness, and really use it in our favor? Yes. So again, you can find several ways to connect energetically with your audience in a speaking or any other business content or any other situation, really life situation. In my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, and it's there for you on Amazon as Kindle and as print, for all of those who really want to learn those tools and how to prepare mentally, physically, and energetically for those situations.
And we need that. We need so much more of that, because too many people are living a life that is not satisfying, not enjoyable. They want to make the change. And having your book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, sparkle.
Exactly. Sparkle, sparkle, right? Shine your brilliance out to the world.
I think it is so important. And recognizing, like you say, the energy that we put out. We don't think, well, I'm sitting here in this room in my office. Nobody is around. Well, I'm talking to you and our audience here, but normally no one is around. And I know that my energy, whatever it is actually going out the window and affecting people.
Yeah.
And I've actually had clients who I asked, how did they find me? And they said, well, I saw your picture.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt the caring in your smile. And I said, oh, well, that's really cool, because that's exactly, and that's the same thing that you do.
I can so see that, Karen. And plus, it's caring Karen, right?
I hadn't thought about that, but there you go. Oh, well, Regina, you are amazing. I love to see your energy, and the red. The red is one of my very favorite colors. It's the color of wealth and joy and happiness. And through all of your experiences, that has helped you grow, and the fact that you have gotten through all of that and are making such an impact on the world. It's such an awesome thing to see. It really, it just shows what anybody can do when they have those 4 pillars in place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. And I also complemented with another modality, which I hadn't even mentioned yet. It's called Conversational Intelligence, or CIQ, and it brings the verbal element into the whole trust building and all of the leadership, inclusive leadership, and all of those topics. And in that context, I talk a lot about humanizing the workplace, because I believe that our workplaces are greatly dehumanized, and we need to bring that human factor back. So I'm going to do actually a presentation about that again very soon at an online conference. So that's another piece that I like to talk about, on a more organizational level. Yeah. But in general, I just really, I'm a huge adventurous freedom seeker, I think you could say, and a little bit of a nomad. So that's me. And, everything I do is in the service of freedom, and even also humanizing the workplace. It gives people more freedom to express themselves, to make a bigger impact, and therefore also have a more fulfilled life. Because I think we all agree that, the more impact we can make, the more fulfilled we feel, at least most of us, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what most people that I've come across through the years, when I try and break it down into what exactly are they searching for, is that freedom. It is freedom. And that comes really from inside.
Yeah.
I think. And the right actions that they take. So I understand that there is, how can they get your book and fun things? How can they do you? I know there are many ways.
Yeah, exactly. So I've actually reduced my, my social media a little bit, because it's just so much all the time. So I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, and just as Regina Huber with my name. Yes, you will find me there. And then, of course, YouTube also with the same name, Regina Huber. Lots of free resources there. My website is transformyourperformance.com as my company name. And also I have a second website, which I call my connection website, and it's called followregina.com.
Oh, great.
And there I offer, the opportunity to also sign up for my mailing list to get more free resources and inspiration in your inbox, as well as a free video mini course as well. And absolutely free. Another thing that I want to mention is I am focusing very much right now again on energy. Yes. So I just did, for example, a presentation earlier this week with an Australia-based leadership institute, which was really about speaking in public, presenting virtually and in person. And a big focus of it was on that energetic preparation and on how to enhance your presence, even also online. But I want to go deeper with all of this and really look how energy plays into all of the pillars, even of my framework. And just deepen this a bit more. I think, we all have a unique spark, and it's always going to the next level. And that is the next level I'm working at right now.
Oh, that is fantastic. So do you work mostly with companies then, or with individuals?
I do both. So I have my private coaching clients. I used to have a mastermind in the past. I might do one again in the future. I'm not having one right now, but I also have some online offerings that I still yet have to promote, actually. But I'm really focusing very much now on. I'm doing a study group for energy work, and I will measure those outcomes and results, and then also take it from there. Also just really, I'm still working on the whole concept, but I'm very excited about it. So once I know more and I have more to share and publish, I will definitely let you know. And it's definitely going to be on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, fantastic. And I can absolutely attest. Regina's videos are tremendous, and look her up. Be sure to like them because they are wonderful. Be sure to subscribe to her YouTube channel, and I will have that in the comments below this. as well as get her book. How can they get your book?
Right. Thank you, Karen. So it's on Amazon as Kindle or print paperback. So you can get it in any of these two forms. And it's called Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. And it's really a book full of tools and techniques. And I always say to people, use the ones that speak to you. Use the ones that resonate the most with you. You don't have to use them all, but pick and choose.
Yeah. Start with one. Start at least with one, because it's something we can all benefit from. It is so great. So thank you so much for joining us today. And is there any last little tidbit that you would like to share before we go?
I would just say, really focus on your inner power. No one can empower you but yourself, as I said earlier. And it's really all about your freedom. Once we sacrifice freedom for safety, we will lose both. And I think, I'm not the first one who's saying this, but I love this quote. And I'm not sure who's the original author of it, because I've seen several different authors. But you can certainly find it online also when you look for it. It's just something that really resonates with me. Freedom is one of my highest values, along with integrity and curiosity, which goes with freedom, I think.
Absolutely. We all have to be curious, don't we? And not be judgmental about others, but absolutely be curious about them, interested, and take what works and leave the rest to one side. I encourage people not to throw it out with the bathwater, but put it on the shelf until you're ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. The right timing, it's not always the right time for everything, and not everything is right for us. So yes, we have the freedom to pick and choose.
So Regina Huber, thank you so much for being my guest today. You are amazing, inspirational, and motivational in everything that you do. And I'm so grateful. So it is transformyourperformance.com and followregina.com.
That's it.
And I look forward to the next time. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's so lovely and wonderful to speak with you always. And I can only say the same about you. We are inspirational. We have our very own distinctive uniqueness. We do it in our own way. There's no competition. There's only co-creation in my world.
I totally agree. And that's how this podcast began. And I was so pleased that you were such a wonderful person and agreed and were able to slow down enough to be my guest today. You are so busy and have so much energy. Bless you, Regina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.